Ever wonder what it's like to be truly invisible? Picture this: the Xyler Institute, a place where the universe's most privileged offspring learn how to run star-spanning empires. We're talking kids whose allowances could buy entire planets. And then there's Alex Torres, Earthborn, dressed in a standard-issue gray uniform. He was practically a ghost. His days were spent emptying trash cans, scrubbing floors, and trying his best not to be noticed while teenage oligarchs practiced galactic diplomacy on holographic battlefields all around him. The pay? A measly 4 Earth credits an hour, just enough to keep him in a tiny, one-room pod and a diet of instant noodles. The unspoken rule was clear: keep your eyes down, don't speak unless spoken to, and never forget that, statistically speaking, humans were pretty much the janitors of the entire galaxy. It was a stark, almost brutal reality, but it was his. But then, one ordinary Tuesday, the universe decided to throw a wrench in those carefully laid plans. A single act of kindness, something so small it could literally fit in a child's palm, didn't just make a ripple. It sent shockwaves, tremors that shook the galactic stock market, forced a reevaluation of human-alien law, and somehow, impossibly, catapulted a nobody cleaner right into the orbit of the richest woman alive. And believe it or not, it all started with a drop toy. The toy wasn't just any toy. It was a crystalline song sphere, a marvel of alien craftsmanship, programmed to sing the ancient lullabies of 100 different cultures. It was beautiful, intricate, and incredibly precious. It slipped from the delicate, clawed hand of a tiny Vayari girl named Kale. Her silver skin shimmered faintly, and her 3 slender legs usually carried her with grace. But today, one leg brace sparked ominously where the servo had shorted out. Her eyes, impossibly large for her small face, watched the sphere tumble, helpless. Her classmates, children of power and influence, simply stared. No one moved to help. In Vayari culture, extending aid without explicit permission isn't kindness. It implies the recipient is weak, and for a Vayari, weakness is a social death sentence. So they watched, paralyzed by their own rigid customs. Alex saw the sphere roll, heard its melodious music glitch and stutter into silence. He was waxing the polished marble just 3 meters away, a silent sentinel in his gray uniform. Every fiber of his being, every protocol he'd ever been taught, screamed, "Stay silent, stay invisible." But he couldn't. He stepped forward, knelt down, and with a gentle hand, returned the toy. His gloved thumb brushed the cracked casing, and instantly, the lullaby resumed, clear and sweet, filling the hushed corridor. Kale looked up, her huge eyes meeting his. No one, not a single soul, had truly met her gaze since her accident. It was a tiny moment, yet in that sterile, unfeeling environment, it felt like an explosion of warmth. From a shadowed, opulent balcony high above, Mirana Vey watched it all unfold. This was a woman who owned 3 solar systems, funded half the Xyler Institute, and had, on occasion, fired senators with little more than a curt memo. She was, in every sense of the word, power personified. And she was also Kale's mother. Mirana had observed humans her entire life, cataloging them as passionate, chaotic, short-lived, and, frankly, useful only for cheap labor. She'd always dismissed their emotional displays as inefficient, their empathy as a weakness. Yet this unremarkable human janitor, had just risked censure, perhaps even his job, for a child who could never possibly reward him. It defied all her logical understanding. Her personal security feed, linked directly to her neural implant, logged the exact moment: 9 hours 47 minutes and 12 seconds. She replayed it twice, watching Alex's simple, instinctive gesture, the genuine concern in his eyes. Then, with a dismissive wave, she sent her bodyguards away. Downstairs, she found Alex, still diligently wiping away footprints he hadn't even made, seemingly oblivious to the seismicist janitor. Her voice resonated through the vast hall, clear and sharp, like struck crystal. It wasn't a question. It was a command, an immediate demand for attention. State your motive. Alex's pulse hammered a frantic rhythm against his ribs. His mind raced, considering a lie, resorting to the ingrained protocol of self-preservation. But exhaustion, a deep, bone-weary exhaustion from years of being overlooked, won out. He simply couldn't muster the energy for pretense. "She looked sad, ma'am," he admitted, his voice quiet but steady. "Seemed like the decent thing to do." Mirana blinked, a rare, almost imperceptible flicker. Decency. The word felt ancient, plucked from antique texts and forgotten philosophies. Certainly not something you heard echoing in the cutthroat boardrooms of galactic finance. She spent more on breath mints than his entire hourly wage. She asked his name, his planet of origin, and then, almost as an afterthought, his hourly wage. For credits. The disparity was staggering, almost comical, if it weren't so profoundly sad. This man, who embodied a quality she rarely encountered, was paid less than her daily caffeine allowance, by noon. The entire institute buzzed with an unprecedented level of gossip. The Veari titan, Mirana Ve herself, had summoned a human custodian to the executive lift, a place usually reserved for heads of state and trillion-credit investors. Students, their faces a mixture of disbelief and fascination, filmed the event on their wrist comms. Alex, feeling like a raw nerve, stepped inside the gleaming chrome and glass cabin. The doors sealed with a soft hiss, cutting him off from the murmuring crowd, from everything he knew. Inside, Mirana wasted no time. She offered him a new contract, one that would redefine his very existence. Personal liaison for Calais with a salary equivalent to a planetary senator. And that wasn't all. It came with full human immigration benefits for Earth, a package that was practically unheard of in the current galactic climate. In exchange, he would accompany Calais, report on her social integration, and this she left delicately unsaid, but Alex understood, continue being decent in rooms where decency had long gone extinct. It was an offer that was both incredible and terrifying. Alex's knees genuinely threatened to buckle. Accepting meant leaving Earth behind, a life he knew, however meager. But declining? That might just offend the most powerful woman alive. A thought that sent a shiver down his spine. He swallowed hard, his throat suddenly dry. "I'll need Sundays off," he managed, his voice a little shaky. "To call my mom." Mirana actually smiled then, an expression the tabloids claimed she'd had surgically removed years ago, replaced by a perpetual, calculating neutrality. It was a genuine, if fleeting, softening of her features. Deal sealed. Within an astonishing week, Alex found himself moving into a sprawling, glass-walled apartment overlooking the Institute's breathtaking ring garden. It was a far cry from his one-room pod. He still wore gray, but now it was tailored nanosilk that somehow repelled stains and felt impossibly light, a stark contrast to his old, scratchy uniform. The students, who once treated him as if he were part of the furniture, now approached him, genuinely curious. They asked about Earth music, Earth food, even Earth resilience, a concept that seemed to intrigue them deeply. He answered with stories of lemonade stands and garage bands, of simple human joys and struggles. Some laughed, amused by the quaintness of it all, but others, surprisingly, listened like pilgrims, eager to absorb every detail of this strange, new culture. And Calais? She absolutely bloomed. With Alex by her side, a constant, kind presence, her classmates slowly dared to speak to her, then, eventually, to invite her to join their games. It was a profound shift. Engineers, inspired by Alex's presence and Mirana's new directive, replaced her clunky leg brace with a revolutionary new design. They used human-designed micromotors, lighter, cheaper, and incredibly adaptable. For the first time in her young life, Calais ran. The footage of her joyful, uninhibited sprint, her 3 legs a blur of motion, wasn't just a cute video. It trended on 16 worlds, a symbol of hope and progress. Of course, not everyone applauded this sudden, unprecedented shift. Some xenophobic board members, entrenched in their ancient prejudices, openly warned of a human contagion, fearing the perceived weakness of human empathy spreading through their rigid society. Stock in Veari Holdings, an empire built on cold, hard logic, dipped a noticeable 0.3%. Anonymous memos, circulated through the Institute's private networks, brazenly branded Mirana as unstable for outsourcing motherhood to a primitive. The whispers grew louder, the dissent more organized. At a closed-door council meeting, Tense with unspoken accusations, Mirna simply played the lift security feed. The silent footage of Alex kneeling, returning the toy, his genuine concern palpable even through the screen. Then she paused it. "This primitive," she stated, her voice cutting through the tension, "returned my daughter's smile. Can any of you quantify that ROI?" Silence descended, heavy and absolute. The shares rebounded, but Mirna knew better than to think the battle was won. Her enemies, now smarter and more cautious, were simply waiting. Opportunity, as it often does, arrived disguised as a full-blown crisis. A Vayari mining platform, a colossal structure orbiting a neutron star, suffered a catastrophic life support failure. 1,200 crew members, including 60 Earth humans who had signed on for the dangerous work, faced slow, agonizing suffocation. Galactic regulations were clear, forbidding high-risk rescue missions in such extreme conditions. Insurance protocols deemed a payout cheaper and more efficient than any attempt at intervention. It was a cold, calculated judgment. The Council voted quickly, predictably, to abandon ship. Mirna hesitated, her face a mask of conflict. Alex, invited to observe these high-level deliberations as Kale's liaison, couldn't stay silent. "What if we save them instead?" he asked, his voice cutting through the sterile air of the chamber. A few council members chuckled, a sound devoid of humor. He stood, still just a nobody in tailored gray, but now with a quiet authority, and outlined a reckless, almost insane plan. Pilot a small tugship, siphon atmosphere from the platform's hydroponics bay, jury-rig a solar sail to ride the neutron star's dangerous radiation, and buy just enough time for a full evacuation. He finished. This time, no one laughed. The motion to proceed with Alex's plan failed 7-1. But Mirna, seeing the raw courage and ingenuity, used her veto for the first time in a decade. Her eyes, usually so guarded, held a fierce determination. "Prepare the tug," she ordered, her voice resonating with unshakable resolve. "I'll fund every credit of fallout." The risk was enormous, but she wouldn't let Alex's decency be in vain. They launched at dusk, a tiny speck against the vast, unforgiving canvas of space. Alex co-piloted, his hands steady on controls far more complex than any mop handle. From HQ, Kale, her small face pressed against a data screen, monitored comms, whispering childlike encouragement that somehow cut through the static and fear. The tug reached the crippled platform, a harrowing journey through the star's volatile electromagnetic field. Alex, with a Vayari engineer, executed the hydrosiphon with surgical precision, then deployed the jury-rigged solar sail, a shimmering silver tapestry unfurling against the lethal starlight, catching the radiation like a desperate, impossible wind. Evacuation pods launched in waves, a steady stream of life escaping the dying platform. The very last one out carried Alex, carefully cradling an unconscious human engineer, his face grim but victorious. The cost of this audacious rescue was not insignificant. 2 Vayari cruisers were scorched by the radiation, and Alex himself sustained a cracked rib. But the critical number? 0 fatalities. The galactic media exploded, hailing it as a miracle, a testament to unprecedented heroism. Protesters, once chanting against human integration, now gathered outside council chambers, their signs boldly proclaiming, "Humanity equals heroism." The narrative had shifted dramatically. The ripple effect of Alex's actions was undeniable enough for the Galactic Parliament to fast-track the Human Integration Accord. This wasn't just some minor policy tweak. It was a sweeping change. Tariff breaks for Earth exports, opening up new economic avenues. Scholarship quotas specifically for human students, ensuring their inclusion in prestigious galactic institutions. And perhaps most importantly, bilateral medical research initiatives, acknowledging humanity's unique contributions to science and healing. Earth's ambassador, formerly a mid-level clerk, suddenly found himself receiving a coveted seat on the Galactic Council, a position of immense influence that few had ever dreamed a human would hold. Alex, the former janitor, returned to the Institute not as an employee, but as a respected trustee. He didn't just sit on committees. He actively proposed radical curriculum reform, empathy modules, cross-species ethics, subjects once considered frivolous or unnecessary. These proposals, once unthinkable, passed unanimously. Enrollment from frontier worlds, eager to embrace this new, more inclusive vision, tripled. Donors, now seeing the tangible benefits of compassion, cited the janitor effect as their primary motivation. It was a profound, almost unbelievable transformation, all stemming from a simple act of kindness. One quiet evening, Mirana found Alex on the ring garden balcony, a serene oasis above the bustling institute. He was staring, as he often did, at Earth's tiny blue dot projected onto the vast hollow dome overhead. "Regrets?" she asked, her voice softer than usual. He shrugged, a familiar, easy gesture. "I miss the smell of real rain, you know? The kind that cleans the air, not just recycled water. But," he paused, a gentle smile touching his lips, "I get to watch Kale race her friends now. Really race. That's something else entirely." Mirana studied him, her sharp eyes taking in the details. His calloused hands, still rough despite the tailored silk sleeves. He hadn't fundamentally changed, not where it counted. "You altered the trajectory of civilizations, Alex Torres," she said, her voice filled with a quiet awe. "All because you returned a toy." He met her gaze, his smile widening, the same easy, genuine smile he'd given Kale that fateful day. Maybe the galaxy just needed reminding that small things matter. If the story, this wild ride from mop to galactic influence, reminded you that kindness can absolutely rewrite futures, then please tap that like button. Drop a comment below telling us the last small thing you did that felt huge, that made a real difference. And definitely subscribe for more HFY tales that punch way above their weight class. From janitor to trustee, from invisible to utterly indispensable, Alex's extraordinary journey began with nothing more than a dropped songsphere and a simple, courageous choice to care. One act of genuine empathy, one powerful woman willing to see beyond her prejudices, and one small child's burgeoning joy. Together, they made the cosmos tilt on its axis. Remember this: empires may trade in credits and conquest, but the universe, the real universe, runs on those quiet, profound moments we can hold right in our palms. Next time you see someone drop their world, no matter how small or insignificant it seems, pick it up. You truly never know whose life, maybe even humanity's, you might change forever.